sitting there from 11 a.m. to 10:15 or so, 10:30ish. Our Mr. Maroney came up. He was the only one who spoke, so he introduced the bill. And then I went and I was going to start reading my prepared statement, but Pauline found a link that someone posted from the Connecticut Superintendent's Council saying, shoot down this bill because of appropriations. So the very first thing I said to them was, before I even launch into my written testimony, it cost my school $0 to train me. So that got everybody listening. So I launched in. I don't know. Did they laugh a little bit when I made my wife joke? I wasn't looking. Yeah.
Everybody did.
I got Dr. Morelli. I actually said, on a personal note, my training in CSP has made me smarter. That's at least what my wife has told me. So that got a little bit of a laugh. And I went into, if I do this at age 44, imagine what students who have grown up in this technology, what they can do if they learn this stuff. So overall, it was pretty good. And then Pauline went and actually hit up the cost factor and the training stuff and her personal experiences too. And then Chinma went and discussed her, the cost thing and all the training and stuff. And Chinma actually mentioned, it's hard for her to get all these schools to sign up through like code.org and stuff. So the Legislative Council offered us their network to sign up schools to get more teachers interested in signing up for training in computer science.
Great. Cool.
It's a step forward. It's going to be one of those bills that you're going to have to introduce every year and keep pounding away.
You don't think it will get passed?
No, because they had stuff like CPR on the bill too, and CPR training. And
I remember hearing that on the news, actually.
Yeah, CPR training and stuff like that. So it's got to be a little bit better written, if you ask, being an old social studies teacher, because it just mentioned things like social media and computer programming, not computer science, and that's where the flaw is.
Yeah,
it's got to be under the all-encompassing computer science, so you can hit all the digital citizenship and.
Well, hopefully you guys all know that computer programming and computer science are not equivalent.
Are what?
Are not equivalent.
Well, I know that.
Still working on educating.
Quite a few people make that association. They think they're one and the same thing, I would have to say, Chinma, some of the people on our CS advisory committee.
Yeah.
Chinma and I are serving on an advisory committee with the State Board, Department of Ed. Chinma, I'll let you tell about it.
I just know that we have to work carefully.
Yeah.
There's so much that needs to be done, and so whatever they start with, the deal wasn't the best, but I think it was good in the sense that it made them listen to us.
Yep.
Next time, like when I spoke, I talked about K to 12. I wasn't talking about middle school, but he wrote it for middle school. Jason told me he sent in a bill, but it wasn't called up.
Yeah.
So the one that was up was by James. So hopefully next year somebody will put a better bill up.
Well, but anyway, thank you three for enduring that hard day and getting this on the record.
Well, I learned a lot of valuable lessons, and I know how to approach it next year. And actually, we should look into writing part of the bill this year to give it to a legislator. So
actually, you know what might be a good idea, Chinma, is to have a legislative subcommittee of CSTA.
Yeah.
People will talk about it. We used to have an advocacy committee. Everybody disappeared.
Yeah.
If we have somebody who wants to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm committed to this now after sitting there for 12 hours, so it's got me. I'm going back again next year. We just got to find. Yeah, we just got to find somebody. We either go back through Mr. Maroney again to have him introduce it again, and maybe have him hopefully write our own bill where we can get computer science in there and get things like the CPR class not on it.
Okay, next meeting we introduce the need for a legislative or advocacy committee, and we put you in charge.
Okay, thanks. Great.
That's how it's done. Every committee needs people to work on it.
Yeah, no problem.
Hey, Jim,
Yep.
there was one thing that when the state representative came to our CSTA meeting, and we had mentioned that, or I had mentioned that I have special ed kids in my class, that got a lot of buy-in from her.
I mentioned that in my testimony because I teach to 8th grade through high school now. I mentioned the special ed students in my class who have achieved, and all the underrepresented groups from women to minorities to kids who don't normally have academic success. And I actually mentioned that counselors and teachers run to put these special ed kids into my class because they are meeting with some success. Like I had one special needs kid who couldn't be alone without his paraprofessional, except in my class.
And I've got the same, which is I've got kids that are doing things and their parents sit there and go, I had no idea my kids could do this.
Yeah.
I mean, and we're not even talking programming. We're talking writing words on a wiki. Writing.
So I have, kids doing that too. So yeah, I definitely mentioned that. That was my focal point in the legislature because I knew we couldn't just mention it as a AP class. It had to be, to get them interested, it had to be an all-encompassing thing to get all students to close the achievement gap.
So Rachel and Aaron and Laura, are you also getting similar kinds of things happening in your classes?
Like what? I'm sorry, just to refresh my head with
Special ed kids.
With kids that haven't been performing well in other courses or contexts, but performing better in this course.
I am literally brought into every single IEP meeting at our school because I'm the one class that most of those students are actually doing well in.
Yeah.
Because we have kids that have really bad emotional problems. We have a few kids with Asperger's that are high functioning, and then in my classes, for some reason, things just start to click. So,
you know what? If we could figure out a way to write this up, this would be a very nice paper to submit to SIGC next year.
I think like my class is mainly the something kids who have severe emotional problems that are doing well. I think if we just ask for their classification, we don't need to. There should be a way we can capture who they are and then use it. Because these kids are doing success.
It's huge, and it stops being an elitist course and starts.
I have a kid at one.
So what about something like this? Why don't we get each of you to do like a blog post on this particular observation you're making? You don't mention any kids' names or anything like that, but you could describe like little anecdotes or case studies. And if you could document that, then we could put those all together and do a submission of this, or even better, or in addition, maybe get some publicity, get some news outlet to cover that particular aspect of the experience you're having, because I think that is huge.
Well,
I didn't realize it so much.
The multimedia aspect, the fact that it's not just text, it's not just lecture, but the videos, the ability that I have to go and say to kids, listen to the video at your own pace, and then let's come back and talk about it.
What about the creative part? Is that part of it too?
The creative part is huge.
Create stuff that they want?
That is huge. But what's really, really huge is the fact that some kids can just read the text. Some kids can listen audio. It's that I can teach them in multiple ways in the same class, and I've got all that material there for me. It's literally the only class that I have that unless I write it, that I know I can do that.
Yeah.
It depends on my kids' level. Like, they can go through the tutorials or do the videos and put it together. But then if you have like one kid, I asked him to do the project, and he couldn't do it on his own. He couldn't tie it all together. So what I did, I ended up just giving him like a space shooter game, and had him enhance it on his own and counted that as his project because he wasn't cognitively there yet to be able to tie all the tutorials together. But
you could add value to it. You know, he could add his own piece to it, which is important.
He could add his own pieces to it, but he couldn't take everything from all the other tutorials. But which still for him was a step in the right direction because it still developed some of his cognitive processes and his writing skills.
That's fantastic to hear. So, I mean, I really think we should try to document this and do a report on it or paper.
I think it's really important for selling it because, like I said, when I initially approached the kids on writing up this course description, they were saying, you want only the higher level algebra kids. And it's like, no, I want everybody. You have no idea what these kids can do. I have no idea what these kids can do. I want to figure it out.
Yeah, actually, Dr. Morelli, my mobile CSP class with all my seniors in it who are like checking out right in this last quarter, it's right now probably one of my least favorite classes to teach versus the 8th grade and the 9th grade, and the kids are excited about it.
Yeah.
I have kids who are like going into the military in the CSP class and stuff who are not AP level, and he knows they know, they're not going to be doing this, so some of them have started to really
senioritis.
Yeah, pretty much. Unfortunately,
but
it's got to be a class. So
you know what I have that's cool, Jim? I have a kid that I had in my video production class last semester.
It's like the Brady Bunch.
He was already checking out for senioritis. This semester, he's in my intro class.
Oh, they heard that.
And
who's that?
The thing about it is he's working with a girl who is very, very low functioning level, and he's interfacing with her so well because he has a cousin that's got Down syndrome. And he's sitting down and breaking it down and learning it and feeling much more responsible about his work because I paired him up with a lower level student because he already knew how to build his wiki. He already knew how to do a lot of the basic setup stuff for the course. And by pairing him with this lower level kid, he's all of a sudden vested because he wants to be her champion. That is
I wish I had that in that particular class. My junior class is doing really great. My sophomore junior class in mobile CSP, awesome. I'm just facing big senioritis in my other class right now.
Oh, I've got every age level mix, so it doesn't.
It started today for me. They got the weather, and the weather bug was like, woo!
That's it.
So one of the things that was said at the SIGSI meeting is that people are recognizing that their courses work in I forget the exact term, but dual enrollment, meaning there's an AP level and a non-AP level, just like you're describing here, which is fine.
Well, that's what I have, non-level versus college prep level.
Right.
In the same class.
That's okay to have both.
It actually works better.
Well, that's why I've been because I have a middle school that goes too. I go from 6 to 12, so I'm rolling this all the way down to 6th grade eventually. So by the time they get there, so the 8th graders do a little bit of a project. They pick it up in 9th grade. They can do some in 9th or 10th grade. Then, if they're really interested, they can take the real mobile CSP class and get the AP level type credit. Because that was the one thing that all my kids complained about last year is they only had 2 weeks to work on that project.
Yeah.
They couldn't develop it. Now, if they have some background already going into it, they could really develop some, for lack of a better word, some kick-ass projects for the AP level class.
Well,
it'd be cool to make a mobile CSP junior that's a formal curriculum for middle school. That would be really cool to develop.
Pauline.
We're already working on it. I'm already working on it. I'm biting some. I'm
Yeah,
taking
way to go. Way to go, Jim. That's our next big grant that we got to get, Mobile CSP Junior. Wouldn't Patricia Gans love to hear this?
Michael, we should get Michael a chance to say something since he got here late and we're about to wrap up almost, yeah? I have to go in a few minutes.
Raspberry Pi.
Raspberry Pi.
Got some? You sharing?
I'm testing out with it now, and the kids are seeming very interested in the capabilities of making like a game machine. But there's an add-on kit called the Kano, K-A-N-O, which basically takes you through the process of like putting together Raspberry Pi, installing an operating system. And from the documentation I've been reading in the Raspberry Pi, it looks like the reason why they developed it was because of the lack of programming knowledge and computer knowledge, because in the 90s and 2000s, as computers transitioned from these somewhat useful tools that people who were technologically inclined to use, to everybody can use it and everybody needed it to do all their daily work, people were basically discouraged from experimenting with it, because if they were going to break it, then they would disable it and nobody could get their work done. So that's why there's kind of this bubble of people who don't know how to code. And so the Raspberry Pi looks like an idea of an area to go, I don't know, maybe for like an advanced year beyond this, or maybe even like a supplemental thing to go with this. And the kits themselves are only like $35 for the actual computer. An accessory kit, I picked up a couple of them. They're like $65, and they came with everything except for the keyboard and the mouse. And they're really fun to play with, and it's taking you through your writing lines of code. It has things like Arduino pre-installed. It has Scratch pre-installed. And it takes you through some of the base process of learning to like program and start and stuff like Linux.
Mike, I got a question for you on that.
Go ahead.
I bought.
We were thinking about doing that possibly next year, me and Rachel. And my concern is I didn't know whether we were going to go with Arduino or possibly go with Raspberry Pi.
We're getting both.
We have both right now. We already have Arduino in West Hartford. We run them in the robotics electronics class. We run them in the computer technology class. The difference between the Arduino and the Raspberry Pi is like the example I gave to a student. So if you're looking to build a sandcastle, using Arduino is kind of like using like a toy pail and a shovel, whereas using a Raspberry Pi is like using a bulldozer.
Yeah, I bought 25 2 years ago, but I use it only. I hear the new version is very good, but I haven't tried the new version. So what I did then was, are you hearing me?
Yes, I hear you, Kinma.
Okay, so what I did then was to get one for each student in my class, because I wanted the girls to have hands-on experience of the computer. I didn't want group work, because group work, the girls always give up the computer they send to the boys. So I got one for each student. What I use it now is after the AP exam. So the kids who want to work on it, use it to do a project. So it's the CSP after the exam, so I look at it as there are many activities I have that my students do after the exam. And that's the way I use it. I'm not using it as a full class. It's going to be supplemental after we submit everything to the college board.
Okay.
So, Mike, can I ask you another question?
Yeah.
Is Raspberry Pi an architecture where Arduino is running through Arduino, or is it two separate things?
The Raspberry Pi is basically, I think right now they're running off like it's one of the Qualcomm like 700 megahertz chips, so it's like equivalent to the processing power of like the iPhone 3GS or like the first Amazon Kindle or the Kindle Fire, whatever it was. But
it's not an Arduino though. So it's
no, it's not an Arduino. Arduino is a simple microcontroller. Bye, Ralph.
Hi, everyone.
It's a simple microcontroller, basic input and output, but you can write Arduino code for it, which is like the traditional programming. I lost the Brady Bunch, gallery. Did anybody try that and make the Brady Bunch joke but me?
Yeah.
So, Jim, I need you to turn and look to your left, and Aaron, I need you to turn and look to your right, and then there you go. Come on, I'll do a print screen of this and I'll show you guys later. But if you hit gallery on Zoom, you have all the faces in a row, and I had all 9, so it was like the Brady Bunch. But anyways, the Arduino is like for simple things. Like we're working on it for a stick project to send one. They want to run one underwater because they're dealing with solving the problem of dehydrogenation or deoxygenization of like pond water during the wintertime. So they want the thing to run a pump, but they want it to run it at midday. So they want to hook up light sensors to it to know when the light's the most intense, and they want to have it solar powered, and they want to have it run a water that just circulates it and tries to like keep the fish alive. And so the idea was to hook this up to an Arduino. But they accidentally bought a Raspberry Pi. This is how I got into it, is that they accidentally bought the wrong kit. And so I traded them an Arduino kit for the Raspberry Pi. And then once I was playing with it, I bought one of the new Raspberry Pis for myself because I have the old one and then the new one that just came out. But they seem to be pretty amazing from the get-go because my colleague at Connor, Tony Truss, he applied for this summer's training. He ended up finding the Kano kit, which basically makes you go through and do makes you go through and do like programming lines to like learn how all the different things interact. And you don't start with a GUI, you start with a text command system that shows you how to start up and run the GUI from there. But in terms of Arduinos are different. They're like less. There's no operating system running. They'll just execute and run a script, and it's a single thing that can be loaded. Whereas the Raspberry Pi is like the general purpose computer that can run an operating system and do many things.
Okay, so
Mike,
no, go ahead.
would it be possible for you to give us a workshop after you've explored it? Because I want to use it.
After I have more time, yes.
After April.
Sure.
Or during April.
Yes,
so
because actually, yes,
that
would be good because what I'm doing now is we have in-house grants that are up to $2,000 for West Hartford Public Schools. So I'm actually going to work with one of the other teachers at Connor, again, Tony Truss, to try and get as many Raspberry Pis as we can to say that, we want to apply for this grant and get it. And we want the students to leave with a $35 computer that just needs a little bit of hardware to run at home because it can hook up to any TV. It can hook up to Wi-Fi if you get the right kit. It has like a USB dongle. And basically they have their own computer that can be changed and manipulated to run anything. Like it could be a media server. It could be an actual like network server to store information and host information.
Okay, what I think is if you take time to look at it closely, you decide what you can do for us. If you can send me something that talks about how many minutes you need.
Okay.
And I'll see if it's something we can do in a meeting or something we need to schedule a Saturday session for.
Oh, no. It's free meeting in 10 minutes.
You think it can fit into our normal monthly meeting?
For when you would want to present this to the next CTCSTA?
Yeah, if you think you'll be ready. If it's not, our next meeting is April. Next one is June. So if you won't be ready for April, then we can do it for June.
Depends on when it is in June. If it's when it is in April. If it's after April vacation, then I can do it because I can spend time during April break getting ready for it because that's what I had planned on doing anyways because I'm kind of going all over the place with robotics right now.
Our meeting is usually second Monday of the month.
Then I don't think if it's the second Monday of the month in April, it's going to be before break, so I probably wouldn't be ready for that point in time. I could try, but I don't know.
Okay, let's just keep it as tentative, and then you tell me whether you're ready.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're ready, we'll go with it. If you're not ready, we'll move it to June.
Okay.
Yeah, so we can learn from it so that it will enrich our lives.
All right. On that note,
My team won a regional this weekend.
Was that for first?
Yep.
Congratulations. We were doing the Vex up in Worcester, and while we didn't do too well, the way that I wrote up the email and emailed out to the school how they ended up finishing like 38th out of 70, which wasn't great. But the team that won the championship was undefeated except for one match where we thumped them. So they won all of their qualifying matches except that one, and then they won all of their championship matches in the finals. And they basically swept through the finals, and we gave them their only loss of the day or of the weekend.
Mike, it's not about winning; it's about participating in that.
Exactly.
If they can get a robot up and running and get it there as a team, they won.
Oh yeah.
And you know, my school, the reason why I'm really happy we won is because my principal is like a football team supporter. She only understands, did you come in first or did you lose? So if we won once, it's good for a while.
Keep riding that then.
Yeah, that's it.
People have first girls for Tectovision.
Tectovision.
Does anybody have up to first girls in their class?
I can't get it. I can't.
I don't have my numbers yet. I'm supposed to be getting them Wednesday, but I don't know.
For next year?
Yeah, next year's numbers. I don't know how many sections I'm running. All I know is that it's supposed to be we're supposed to have numbers. Other departments already have their numbers. I think our department supervisor just hasn't gotten a chance to get them out to us yet.
Oh my God, you're so far ahead of me. I won't have my numbers until June.
Okay.
Mike, I envy you.
Yeah.
At this point, they're still looking at, are they going to cut any more teachers?
That's scary.
We cut 2. And I'm an elective, so I always have to be worried.
Yeah. What's up, Aaron?
Mike, taking the time to tell me about Raspberry Pi and Arduino. I'm just looking at the difference online right now, and basically, I guess we're going to be doing a little bit of both when I was talking to Rachel real quick, and I didn't realize that. So I just didn't know if I would be learning 2 languages, which it seems like I would be, a little bit of Linux and Arduino at the same time.
Yeah, let me send you the link to the 2 things that we have that are very well. We've done there's a company called Vilros, Vilros. We've done the Vilros. It's not really a curriculum, but I can share with you the documents that we made to go along with like their 12 tutorial circuits. And then there's this really cool program called Fritzing, which basically builds graphic representations of the small Arduino circuits that you're building. I'll send you a link on that, and then I'll share with you the stuff that we've built because I'm working with it right now in 2 of my classes, and it's fun, and it just seems like the Raspberry Pi is that much more serious. It's like this is kind of like a tinkerer's thing. Like you can use an Arduino to, when you hit play on your stereo system at home, you can hook it up to a light circuit, and it can dim the lights because it knows you're playing a movie. And when you hit pause, it'll bring the lights back up because it's a microcontroller. It's controlling one thing, whereas the Pi itself is a fully functioning computer that is just the size of a credit card.
That's what I'm looking at both of those right now, and they're basically one's $40 and the other one's like $33. Arduino starter kit, well, whatever, it's the same thing. But all right, I'll take a look at both of those. They're pretty cool. So because we're going to be doing that next year, and I got to gear up for that deal.
Yeah, Justine said she was going to purchase a few Raspberry Pis that our upper kids, like our more advanced kids, could tinker with, because she thinks like Arduino is a good starting point.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Rachel, I met your doppelganger at a wedding this past weekend.
I have so many doppelgangers everywhere. I hope she was awesome.
It turns out I worked with her selling computers at the Newington Best Buy, and that's where I knew her from. But I walked up to her and I'm like, Rachel, I didn't know you were going to be here. And I started this conversation with her, and she's like, my name's Lisa. And I'm like, oh
crap.
Wait, where do I know you from, Lisa? So that was really funny because I was telling my wife the entire time, Jen, are you still up? Do you want to come look at Rachel for a second? I'm going to have my wife look at you. Don't move.
Creepy.
Don't be creeped out by it. It's funny. You met my wife already. She brought the dogs to the thing that day.
Oh, yeah, I met her. Oh, she's the volleyball coach.
Yeah, doesn't she look like the girl I was pointing out at the wedding?
Yes, she does.
My wife said, yes, you do. So I'm not crazy.
Mike, you're still crazy.
But just not that.
Okay.
great. I'm going to stop the recording, okay?
Okay.
You have about 3 minutes left before the meeting.